Oh, it says we're live on YouTube.
Oh, we
That
made it already.
that was the quickest it's ever gone
Nice.
live before.
Maybe because the internet went down today, now that it's back up, it actually cleared everything out worldwide. So now we can get on YouTube even faster.
I heard Amazon Web Services went under.
Oh yeah, a bunch of
Ooh.
stuff. A bunch of different things went down. I don't know. I
Like
haven't read up on
under
it.
as in no longer around, or under as in just they got some bugs to work out.
Like their
Well,
servers went down.
yeah, a bunch of stuff went down for like an hour. Like, yeah.
I want to know how much money was lost in that hour because I've got websites hosted on Amazon Web Servers, and so I wonder how much money was lost. Not that mine don't make money, but that's a lot of business.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, what's up, YouTube?
It's raining today. This is the rain edition, which
Oh
is
my
what I
goodness.
put in there because it is absolutely crazy today, isn't it? Dave, did you bring your kayak?
Yeah, I got a couple kayaks. We're going to post a few videos of kayaking in the front yard of the church. So stay tuned for those.
All the
We
swelling
swam
has
here.
gone down a ton. I just looked, and the swelling of it has decreased a lot.
That's good. Well, guys, it's good to see y'all today. We started a new sermon series this past Sunday in the book of Colossians. And when we're in a book like that, I typically don't make a big point of the title of the series because I'm not out to preach a series. It's much more we're going to work through this book together. And so we're going to be in the book of Colossians over the summer. I think it's 12 weeks. And we did the first portion Sunday, Colossians 1 through 8, where Paul, he's not met these Christians as far as we know. He's not been to Colossae, the city where these Christians are at. And he writes this letter to them to help them with some doctrinal issues they have, but also to encourage them. And apparently who they are is really renowned within the Christian community, enough so that Paul is like, I'm amazed at you all because of your faith, hope, and love, your faith in Jesus, your love for all the saints, and your hope in the truth. And so what I want to do is kind of talk about, those are good characteristics that we've seen forever and ever. How have you all seen really faith, hope, and love work itself out at Little Rock Church? Dave, you've been here the least amount of time. So what if I start with you? How have you seen that worked out? And then John, how have you seen those things work out?
Yeah, those are good. And I liked how you mentioned that these are kind of the some of Paul's little kind of power words in terms of faith, hope, and love, or faith, love, and hope. So I think that's good. I've definitely seen a lot of people really. I don't know the best way to explain it except show their love that they have for Christ by loving other people. Just countless examples of people saying, I'm going to put what might be important to me aside for a moment so that I can love people that that are in need right now. We see that, definitely through giving. A bunch of folks are super generous, giving sacrificially, but also with their time. They show up to pack banana boxes filled with food to give to people here in our community. They show up to pack bags to feed kids in our local schools. So I think there's definitely that's kind of what I see day in and day out in terms of people really stepping up and showing the love that they have by loving people around them. So I'll just pick on that one.
Yeah. What about you, John? You've been here maybe in youth, but maybe broader than that. Have you seen these things work out?
Yes, I've almost been here 3 years, pretty close to that here in June, and running around. And my first, hanging out with Little Rock Church was really before my family moved here. That I came along with the middle school group, and a group led with Jay Bradley and Lynn Cook and a few others that came along there. Rylan, you came out one day, and we served a church in Searcy that had been kind of partnered up with ACPN. And there was a little bit of the same thing working through there, that by the faith that they have in Jesus Christ, based on what God has done in the past and his resurrection of Jesus, a youth group from Little Rock Church goes out there to love on a church that, again, just, was just hurting, I guess, and needing to partner up with an organization and allowing ACPN to come in and use their building and do a church plant there. That all the work that we did was based on our love for Jesus Christ, but in that hope and expectation of what could happen in that church as ACPN's plugged in there. And so it's just really kind of neat to be, hey, I haven't even moved here, and I'm being able to watch this church move around, and just like I say, like you coming out, not part of the trip, but coming out to be supportive, coming out to be part of that ACPN connection, but also the connection with the youth group. And so there is even more thoughts that I just have about my interview and the process that was going on there, that there was just a lot of like, hey, I don't know this church at all, but what I've heard about their Agape's Promise, what I've heard about their foster care, and how many families have just said, hey, I'm buying in, I'm doing this, for how many families were part of the Food for the Hungry and what was happening for a Monday meal, for a Monday box giving every 2 weeks. And to watch those things where families gathered around other families, I think even in our house churches become such a big primary perspective of this, same language that Paul is using, that it's almost like, man, I've never been to Chuck and Tanya's house church, but because of the faith I've heard about them and their love that spring from the hope that's established, I just see that as one of those things just playing really, really well into Little Rock Church's DNA, and how we're able to say, like, I haven't been to all these house churches, but man, I hear great things happening through a church that's serving a police station, or a church that is serving, or a house church that is serving backpacks for kids, or a house church that stepped in to do A, B, or C.
No, it's good. I think the way I've seen it most work out at Little Rock Church is not in big ways that we talk about from the front. But I've seen time and time again, our people step up to the plate and kind of fill those needs in a private way where, it's not publicized, which I think is a double-edged sword, because Jesus at one point he says, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And so there's very much that sense. And then the other time, not everybody gets to see how God is working, because we don't promote those things maybe like we should, or maybe we do it on purpose. That's one thing that I've seen time and time again, is the people take care of one another. Other question. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's that balance of stories for energy and stories for excitement and stories of just, well, is that tooting your own horn? But you're like, no. I mean, these are half of these things. I mean, even if you ran too far along with Jesus's "don't let your right hand know what your left hand's doing," then it's like, well, why do we have all these super awesome miracles about Jesus and what he did? Well, because they've spurred people on, because it was encouragement, because it's something for us now that we are invited into that story. We participate in what's happening. And so there is that, like, man, when kids or students do something amazing, it's not, hey, we want to just shine spotlights on them, but we want it to be a story that is inviting others to join us, to be part of it. And I think that's the way it works with the church, that we tell this story for you to partner with us. You tell this story for you to come in that same, this happened in the past, but your faith in it because of Jesus Christ is the wellspring of hope and love.
That's good. Good stuff. So keep going, Little Rock Church. You all, you're in a lot of ways, you're doing well, and you trust that God is doing the work in your life, even if it feels like nobody knows. God knows, and there are people in the church who know, even when we don't publish those things. The other question I had was, Paul makes this amazing statement. He talks about the truth of the gospel, that's their hope is in, that's come to them, just as also in all the world it is bearing fruit and increasing. So Paul, he really is wanting them to understand how the truth of the gospel, or the gospel itself, it bears fruit. And one question I didn't address on Sunday is, how do you think about, like, how do you measure that? And it's not like reaching levels, but how do you know that the gospel is doing work in my life, your life? What are some of the hallmarks that someone's going to see when they're like, oh, the gospel is working in my life?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that, and again, I'm not 100% sure on what Paul had in mind, but I think for him, it was.
I am.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm not at all.
You can say that I am. I think for Paul, the fruit of the gospel was definitely like, hey, you guys have heard this message, you've received it, and now you're even sharing it with the people around you. So, and it was very much like a church planting kind of thing. Like, hey, there's a church that's been established here in Colossae, so it's like the gospel is taking root and it's growing, and there's fruit of the gospel being shared as you guys are sharing this gospel with people around you, so that's just kind of my take is, what's the fruit of the gospel is not only have you heard it and received it, but are you also talking about it and sharing it with the people around you? And I think that was definitely happening, and I think that's kind of what Paul had in mind. That's it. That's the answer.
That's good.
Yeah, and along with that, I think is again, him just hearing from Epaphras what's going on is that this fruit is growing in a way that there's a boldness to live it out for the Christians in Colossae. That it's not just, hey, my fruit is, oh, I will share it, I'll share it. But no, I'm living this out. I'm giving up idols right now. I used to worship over here, used to do all these kind of things. And when the gospel truth came to me, man, I stopped visiting those temples. I stopped doing this. I stopped exercising my authority in such a way that my slaves would no longer really listen until, I beat them or whatever. I started treating them more like family. I started doing these things that said, hey, this gospel became very bold in our perspective. And it's great seeing or knowing that Paul doesn't even know these guys, but just from the testimony that he's heard from Epaphras saying, hey, man, there's some great things going on. But then there's also these just two things that are just kind of giving a lot of conflict that I really didn't know how to handle. That's why I ran down to see you, see if you could give us some help, see what's going on, and be encouraged in that Paul is still just like, man, this fruit is bearing because of your proclamation of it, because it's kind of going all over this Turkey, Asia area, while at the same time, the boldness that is living inside you with this truth is something that's very commendable.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, I think I would tell someone is, are you becoming more like Jesus? And part of that means being in some ways it's saying like Jesus characteristically, but it's also saying, are you becoming submissive to Jesus? So it's that idea of, as we've talked about, being formed by the cross of Christ, by the work of Christ. And it's really submitting. Paul, he's going to say it, we're going to talk about this week, but this coming Sunday when he says, so that you may live in a manner worthy of the Lord, to please him in all respects, bearing fruit in every good deed and increasing in the knowledge of God. I think that is a great little 4 kind of ways that we know where we're growing in the way that we're supposed to be doing. And so there's this connection, I think, for Paul between redemption, which is what he's going to talk about in chapter 1, redemption, and the way that we live that out. And to not be afraid. There should be life change for people when they active life change, when they follow Jesus. And so, but it is a process, right? It's like bearing fruit is a process, not a one-time thing. And do y'all know, I'm not even looked, I feel bad. Is bearing fruit there the work, or is bearing fruit like the fruit of the Spirit? I'm going to see if I can find it. What's your all's? I'm shooting from the hip now. I should have looked this up.
I don't know. I actually don't know either. But when I read it, and I'm assuming more of the work than more of the fruit of the Spirit, because then later he does say, there that there's the good works growing good works in you. Later, just in the chapter 1.
No, you're right. Yeah, verse 10, he says, bearing fruit in every good deed. So I bet that's what he has in mind.
I didn't know that there was a difference. So
there's a difference. Come on, man.
I can fake.
No,
doctor.
I can fake some of those fruits, but there's like this internal thing that God does, I think, too.
I think even Colossians 1, where the Holy Spirit's still at play there. That's not. It's not just the fruit of the work, that the Holy Spirit's not involved. No, it's not. At some point, when we talk about it, we're talking about it today. We just have to. We can take the whole picture.
Yeah, sure.
So,
sure.
Yeah.
So everybody keep growing. All right, who's our reverse sponsor for today? I didn't even look up one, but we need one.
Looking around the office. Looking around.
Do we have anything?
Where do we go around?
We need one.
We need a local.
Oh yeah. We're supposed to do local things.
Yeah,
too.
Local things.
All right. Well, we're going to Local Lime for lunch. So
we can acknowledge the entire Hickenbotham restaurant group.
Is that who owns them?
Yeah.
How does he know these things?
Here's to you, Hickenbotham restaurant group.
But that includes, Lost 40 and Heights Taco and Tamale, Big Orange, Local Lime. You know, we'll just
That makes so much sense, seeing all those restaurants in one group.
all the ones that I like all of them. So you know, yeah, it's a good restaurant group, that's for sure.
So, all right, Little Rock Church, we love you. We hope you stay dry. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to call us, or one of the elders will be happy to help or pray for you. And Lord willing,